And,
Our newsmaker this morning is Governor Rick Perry. And needless to say, it's been a busy and memorable week for the governor. On Tuesday, he was sworn in for an unprecedented third term in office. Before that, on Monday, the governor invited me and our KXAN crew into his Capitol office for a one-on-one interview about the challenges facing Texas. You talked last week about the priority issues facing Texas, and a lot of people were wondering, scratching their heads, why didn't you put the budget issues more at the forefront?
I think that goes without saying. The budget's what we do here every 2 years. I mean, the idea that I can't remember which former statewide elected official said it, but he said, you know, the most important thing that you do every 2 years is appropriate the money. Everything else is poetry, I believe was his saying. And that's, I don't know whether it's poetry or not, but those other issues, and we have some important ones, but everyone in this state knows that our budget process is the #1 priority. You don't need to make it an emergency issue, though. You know, it'd be like saying that on Thanksgiving, people decide whether they're going to be wearing maroon or they're going to be wearing burnt orange. That's a given.
The eminent domain issue, why that particular one?
Well, we've been working on it for quite a few years. And I made the commitment to private landowners, different groups, whether it was the Texas Cattle Feeders Association, Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers, that we were going to make that issue a priority issue, get it out of the way, make sure it didn't get caught up in any political maneuvering or what have you. You know, last session of the legislature, we had a number of really good pieces of legislation that did not make it to my desk because of the logjam that was created at the last few days of the legislative session. This is a really important issue for continued growth in Texas. You know, whether it's transportation infrastructure or whether it's continued development of economic projects. We need to get this one done behind us, and most likely it will be in the form of a constitutional amendment as well. I don't know exactly how the members want to finalize it, but it's an important one for the state.
Let's talk about that rainy day fund. It's pretty tempting, over $9 billion sitting there. Do you think it should still sit there and we not touch it?
Sure, I do think it needs to sit there. It's just like your savings, and my bet is that most Texans, although we're facing some economic strife, you know, Texas is doing better than any other state, but you can't be the #1 exporting state in the nation. You can't be the state that's as globally engaged economically as Texas is. You know, we're home to more Fortune 1000 companies than any other state. So you betcha a national, international recession is going to impact Texas. So Texans aren't getting into their savings by and large. You know, there may be some folks that it's very tempting to go take that money, spend it on recurring events, a recurring cost, if you will. And I think that's bad policy for them personally, and I think it's bad public policy for Texas to take that money out of that rainy day fund to help make it through a difficult budget session. But I think we can balance our budget, prioritize what's important, fund that with their available revenue, and leave those dollars in the rainy day fund where they are. California and Michigan are the places that, amongst others, where there's a real rainy day. I would suggest to you in Texas that's not the case.
Do you think we'll be able to maintain the current funding levels for Medicaid, for children's health programs and people in nursing homes across the state?
Here's one of the ways that we would be substantially better served. If the federal government would not have all of these strings attached to our Medicaid funding and allow us a block grant, and then the state, I can assure you, there are a lot of really smart, innovative people in the state of Texas who would take that block grant money. As a matter of fact, I think we could take less money than what the federal government has historically been sending down here and serve more people more efficiently without Washington and their seeming knowing all things mentality of telling us, here's how you can spend it. We've had a waiver in front of Health and Human Services for nearly 4 years now that, you know, Washington doesn't want to turn loose of any control. That's the real issue here. We've gone through 2 different administrations. HHSC in both of those administrations have been a roadblock.
Let me ask you about immigration and related issues. Are you in favor of any bill that ends birthright citizenship to children of those here in Texas illegally?
Well, there are going to be a lot of pieces of legislation that deal with immigration. That may be one, it may not be. The issue of illegal immigration has to be dealt with first with border security. I go back to, we can have debates and discussion until the world looks level about immigration policy and all the different nuances of that. But until you secure the border, until the border is no longer a revolving door, you can't have a conversation, you can't debate this, you can't pass legislation that is going to have much impact at all. I'm for getting the federal government to do one of their base responsibilities, that is to secure our border with boots on the ground and technology and the appropriate resources there to secure that border. Then we can have a legitimate and appropriate and constructive discussion about immigration policy.
And there's another push to have a driver's license test in Texas in English only. What do you think?
Well, obviously, you know, being able to speak English is a very important aspect of getting ahead in this country. So I'm a big fan of total immersion of individuals who have English as a second language, getting them to be able to speak, write, and converse appropriately in English should be all of our goals. So every way that we can do that to help people become more engaged, if you will, in our culture, being able to speak the language is a very important one.
And online now we have my complete interview with the governor with a lot of topics we couldn't get to here this morning. And next, our On Politics panel dives into the issues you've been chatting about with us this morning online, and it's not too late to weigh in, right, Josh?
That's right, Robert, and it's very simple to join our chat room. Just log on to KXAN.com, check out the tabs at the top, and click on the one that says On Politics. It will take you where you want to be, our political site. Our panel is up next on Session 11.